Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Kia ora. No mai haere mai ki Banana Lab podcast. So welcome to the Banana Lab podcast. It is episode 1 today. And you may be wondering, what the heck am I in for? Why have I pressed play on this? Who are you? What am I going to get out of this? Don't worry, we will go through all of that soon. So today's really an opportunity for us to introduce ourselves as the Banana Lab team and to share with you a little bit about how we got about getting here today and what our plan is for this funny thing that we call Banana Lab. So to give you a bit of an intro, Banana Lab is a podcast that is aimed at 1.5 and second generation Asian New Zealanders. The reason that we developed a platform like this is because we realised in the current day and age, there is an incredibly unique set of challenges that 1.5 and second generation New Zealanders face, and there isn't a lot of places in the media that reflect our experiences, our stories. And quite frankly, you know, myself as a Korean New Zealander, when I look out there, I've never been able to quite see something that fully reflects my experiences or that I've been able to relate to. So what you will see or listen to or hear on Banana Lab is stories from myself and from members of our community. So that's our 1.5 second generation Asian New Zealander community. And we're going to be talking about cats, maybe, possibly. We're going to be talking about mental health, mental well-being, career, personal development, all of the challenges and also the funny parts that come with being a Asian New Zealander. I know for me, that's been a big part of my identity and my experience, and particularly things around family and culture have been quite unique experiences that I've found that I haven't been able to see reflected in the media. Before I continue talking about Banana Lab, I'm going to share a little bit about myself and Alex because it's important that you know who we are. So, my name is Romy. I am a Korean New Zealander. My parents moved to New Zealand in the 90s, and they actually met here when they both came here to learn English. Born and raised in Auckland. I've been working in the mental health sector for most of my adult life. Before that, I used to work in the fitness sector. I am a registered addiction practitioner and mental health practitioner, and have been working in the mental health sector for the last 7 years or so. And I live out in West Auckland in my very cute tiny home where I raise my little herbs and do just millennial stuff like that, I guess. Alex is our producer. He's the guy with the headphones on at the moment. He's behind the camera. He's set all of this stuff up for us today. Alex is also a Korean New Zealander. Alex was born in Busan and moved over here in his teenage years. Fun fact, Alex and my mum actually went to the same school, not at the same time, but, you know, many decades apart, I guess. And Alex has been working in the content creation, photography, marketing and AI space over the last couple of years. So super talented guy. Like he's our everything to do with tech stuff. I literally just do the talking. That's kind of about it. Alex started his career as a photographer in the Korean Army, actually, and that's where his love for photography grew. And now he just does all of the things. I'm actually looking at him. He's got a tattoo over here of a vintage camera. It's actually quite cool. So he very much lives and breathes this stuff, and we are very fortunate to have someone as talented as Alex on the team looking after all of the behind of the camera stuff. So how Alex and I know each other is quite a long story, actually. So remember I told you my parents met here in New Zealand when in the 90s when they first moved here. My dad was homestaying at the time. He was a homestay at a family, and anyway, the family's house that he was homestaying at are Alex's auntie and uncle. So basically we ended up growing up together, seeing each other at, like family gatherings and dinners and things like that, the occasional kind of holiday together. And as you do, when you get into your late teens and adulthood and uni and starting a career and whatnot, you end up kind of drifting apart and you lose all of those connections from when you were younger. But somehow we got back in touch with each other and we've been sort of chatting. And I was at the Korean supermarket one day, actually, I remember this. My kakao talk was beeping. If any Koreans, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And Alex had messaged me saying something like, I've got a business idea for you. My first thought was, this dude's a photographer. What kind of business idea is he going to have for me? Anyway, I ended up going over to dinner with Alex and his wife, and he talked about a podcast and around this gap in the market around content that is created by Asian New Zealanders and really resonates with us in terms of our personal journeys and our stories and kind of those experiences that we have as unique people in this society. And anyway, we got brainstorming, and that's how we landed on the name Banana Lab. So where the name Banana Lab comes from is you would have heard the term banana. It's a colloquial term, yellow on the outside, white on the inside. We thought that term was really perfect because despite us being proud kind of advocates for our culture, I guess, the experience of growing up in New Zealand and living life in New Zealand has meant for us that how we feel on the inside, how we think, what kind of philosophies we hold and perspectives we hold, the things that shape us, they've been really different to the generation of our parents who grew up back home in their home countries. So we thought that the metaphor of a banana represented that nicely. The lab part is the interesting part, and this is the part where I get excited. You can see this banana here. This face on the banana is meant to be me. You can see that the banana is chopped up. So during this podcast series, what we will do is dissect the banana. We will explore the different parts of what a banana identity looks like. And we'll have lots of discussions around things that interest me and Alex and the people in our community. So a little bit about my story and why I ended up here today talking about this kind of stuff. So I grew up on the North Shore of Auckland, pretty standard kind of immigrant family, middle-class upbringing. But what I experienced in my life growing up was lots of things that made me feel different to the people that were around me. And I often felt lonely and like I didn't belong in a lot of places. As I grew up, as I entered my teens, I started to struggle with mental health. And that kind of began a long journey for me of around 10 years or so of accessing mental health and addiction services. That's been a huge, huge part of my life. I guess sort of at the end of the road when shit hit the fan a bit, I was really struggling with my mental health and also with alcohol and substance abuse. So I ended up going through 18 months of residential addiction treatment, and that was just the most life-changing experience that I ever had. I had gone from struggling to function and, not wanting to be alive a lot of the times, into experiencing this treatment that helped me bring me back to who I was and helped me find a bit of a purpose as to how I might be able to live without struggling and what I wanted for myself in life. So a couple of months ago, I celebrated 7 years clean and sober. So I'm abstinent from all mind-altering substances, and that's just a personal choice that I've made for my personal recovery. But without that, I wouldn't be able to be where I am today. I was really fortunate that after my experience of accessing services, I managed to get a job in the mental health sector. My first job was as a youth consumer advisor. And basically what that means is I got to use my own lived experiences as a young person who had had struggles with mental distress and had accessed mental health and addiction services. And I got to use those experiences to advocate for change in our system here in New Zealand. So I've done some pretty cool work over the years as a result of that job and the work that has followed. I've worked for the Ministry of Health. I've worked with many government departments and state-owned enterprises in New Zealand around influencing policy and strategy for the mental health and addiction system. I've also got to do some cool work overseas as well. I've done some stuff with the World Health Organization. I went over to England and the Netherlands last year where I spoke at a couple of conferences. I've worked with people in Australia, Canada, basically doing all things youth mental health and addiction. So these days my day job is as a manager of a child and youth mental health service, which is pretty cool. I've got a really, really cool team there, and we actually work with Asian young people aged 5 to 13 around mental wellbeing, which is super cool. I'm also a consultant. I'm also a contractor, a clinical contractor. I also do some supervision stuff. So I like to have my fingers in many, many pies at the same time, because it allows me the variety of doing lots of different types of work in the youth mental health sector. And I guess the cool thing is that all of those experiences growing up where I felt that I was different and I felt that those differences were bad, for example, being a young Asian person, being a woman, being a person in the rainbow community, being someone who struggled with mental health and addiction, all of those things are actually strengths for me now and bring me a huge amount of motivation for me to go and do my work to the best of my ability so that I can shape the mental health system here in New Zealand for the better of other people. And also so that any other, young people like me coming through life and the education system and the health system hopefully have better experiences and get the support that they need. So as we go through this Banana Lab journey, you'll hear a little bit more about my story as well. I've kept it very high level today, but, I did... let's just say I haven't always been a responsible, respectable member of the community. I have gotten up to some mischief in the past, so maybe we'll drop some of that in when the time is right. Before we wrap up today, I want to thank you for tuning in to our first podcast. I want to thank you for bearing with as we go through this process, and I'm very, very excited to see what comes of Banana Lab. This is a platform that we're creating exclusively for people like ourselves, right? People who have had similar experiences to us, and through having different guests on, through showcasing different stories, through sharing perspectives around what it means to be an Asian New Zealander, and what it means to kind of delve into those personal journeys, I think we're going to find some quite interesting and insightful things. And my hope is that adds some value to your life as well as for me, because this is life is a continuous learning journey, right? Like I'm always learning. Every time I talk to someone, or every time I hear a different story, I'm always learning as well. So we're going to leave it there today for episode 1. So thank you again for tuning in. My name is Romy. Alex is your man behind the camera, and we will see you at the next one. Bye.